Morning. I'll let you get on board. Bit tight this morning. Still busy writing away and listening to what's going on down that road. Fascinating stuff. But we'll get a wee mention up further on. Now, here's a minute to get on. Morning, Ali. Morning, Stuart. Check and make sure it's up on Facebook. Aye, we're up on Facebook. Morning, John. Morning, Stephen. Morning, Nancy. Morning, Robert. Now, let the numbers climb a wee bit now. And I've just been notified that we're coming live on YouTube, but as I can see, you're already there, gentlemen. Hi, Stephen. Alistair. Ted Boyd. Lenny. Last Braveheart. Stephen. Gemma. Numbers are climbing nicely, though. We'll give you a wee bit more time to get on board. As you know, wee bit unusual this morning. Clatang was on his feet first thing, giving his mini budget. We'll get a wee bit of that towards the end of the show. But absolutely fascinating. Morning, Alba History. Morning, Dunk. Right, let's get back across the other side, see who's all on board. Morning, Ian. Morning, BJ. Morning, Maggie. Morning, Ellie. Morning, John. Morning, Ian. How we doing? Right, that's 100 of yous on board going by my screen, so let's get this broadcast underway. It's Indie Truck Davey out the truck, not home, in his office in Salisbury, North Lanarkshire, where it's a lovely morning now, 13 degrees, although it was hell of a chilly when I took Sarah to work at 5:30 this morning. Getting real chilly. Morning, Chris. Right, anyway, that's the weather forecast for Salisbury, North Lanarkshire. You want to know what the weather's like where you are? Look at your ain't bloody windy. All right. Right, let's get this news review underway. This is news review of the 22nd of the 9th, 2022. That's yesterday to you and me. There's a lot to get to, so let's go on with it. Right, Thursday started with two main themes in the rags. Putin threatens nuclear Armageddon and speculation over tax cuts in the money budget to be announced today. On Putin's threat of nuclear Armageddon, it's a bluff, but it's got his allies to stuff. China and India are no best chuffed. Nuclear war would not be good for either China or India. Both these massive economies rely on the people in the West that Putin is threatening for their economies to prosper. So it looks like Putin has just got his backup, just got the backup of his backup, should we say. Right, the own tax cuts to be announced in the Tories' money budget today. It will see the Treasury and the Bank of England go to war with each other, all right? Clatang wants to turbocharge the consumer economy with tax cuts to stimulate growth. And the BOE, the Bank of England, is raising interest rates because, for some mad reason, it seems to think the economy is overheating. Wow. Anyway, you know, the bank's taking money out and Clatang's putting it in. This isn't going to end well. Right, okay, let's crack on. Lots to get through, as I say, today. So we'll start down that road in the House of Thieves and Carpetbaggers, then we'll come back up to Scotland, all right? First up, there was a select committee yesterday, Monetary Select Committee, or the Treasury Select Committee, meeting in the Commons, and invited to give representation there was Torsten Bell of the Resolution Foundation, and he is asked what he thinks of Trussonomics, and he'll tell you what, he didn't hold back. He said that Trussonomics was pish. He said you can't loosen off fiscal policy when you're being forced to loosen off fiscal policy through the energy crisis. You don't then voluntarily do the same thing. So it doesn't make sense. It's policy on the hoof, and it's know how to make policy in the 21st century, and it's certainly no grown-up thinking. What he actually said was it's no adult policy making. So there you go. Everybody seems to be in agreement. Trustonomics just won't work. But the Bank of England and the Treasury are going to go to war over economic policy. You know. Anyway, listen to the fiscal policy and subsidies for big energy just won't cut it. It's just can't be done. So they're going to actually borrow to subsidise the energy giants rather than taxing the energy giants. Doesn't make any sense. And a big fiscal spend at this time, the cut of taxes. Well, the problem is the tax cuts are only going to rich. As we heard, if you watch the two Davies just was talking about this, if you're in the higher pay grades in the PAYE system, then you'll be 150 quid a month better off. If you're in the lowest pay grade in the PAYE system, you'll be between 63 and 65 pence a month better off. Pence a month. Now, in order to stimulate the economy with tax cuts, you need to put money into the general populace's pockets. That's not what they're doing. They're giving tax cuts to the rich and hammering the rest of us. Right, moving on. Thursday, Kirtang to tighten up rules on benefits for part-time workers. Now, apparently his wheeze is to force them to do more work. Apparently there is plenty of work out there. Funny that, I'm reading about redundancies left, right and centre this morning. 2 paper mills just went out the game. They're energy intensive and they can't afford to keep going. One in Aberdeenshire and one in Kent. The one in Aberdeen sees 300 people take the dole. Anyway, Kirtang's idea is he tightens up on benefits to part-time people to drive them into working more hours. The problem he's facing there is people only part-time voluntary. They're part-time because of other commitments, mainly caring commitments to either children or sick relatives. So Kirtang's wheeze is just taking more money out of the pockets of the poorest among us. Which is to say that's their policy. Truss makes no apology for it. She says trickle-down economics is the way. It's never worked in my lifetime. Can't see it working just because Truss thinks it will. Right, moving on. Thursday. And Moggy is doing the rounds in the MSM. He tells Sky News that the EU reform bill will be introduced to the Commons soon to allow a bonfire of EU rules. He's asked about the working time directive and if they would consider scrapping it, meaning a 48-hour week. Moggy says they'll look at it, they'll look at whatever's good for growth, all right? And then he volunteers that things like holiday pay may need to be looked at. So there you go. Restriction working hours could be out the window, and your holiday pay could be out the window. But they'll come for it, as David said yesterday, in wee bits at a time. It'll start by upping the working hours. It'll start then by redefining how many hours you have to work before you qualify for a day's holiday. And then the day's holiday will disappear. The 5 days holiday will disappear. After that, they'll move on to maternity leave, they'll move on to paternity leave, they'll move on to pensions. Believe me, it'll go in increments. Right, moving on. So, let's know, hold on a minute. I've got one more thing to say on that. They're coming after your workers' rights. Join a union. If your workplace isn't unionised, unionise it. I never thought I'd hear myself say that, but join a union. Strength in numbers. Right, moving on Thursday, down that road, there is a debate on fracking in the Commons. Moggy is told off by the Speaker for announcing the end of the moratorium and other energy policies to the press rather than announcing it in the Commons first. At the end of the debate, it's underway. For Labour, Miliband takes a stand and he gives Moggy a right trouncing. You know, Miliband points out that renewables are cheaper and will show results quicker. Moggy, who has interest in fossil fuel companies, he says that fracking will help secure the UK energy market. All right, Miliband points out to him, no, it won't, because gas is sold on the international market, so frack gas won't make any difference. Miliband also points out that the British Geological Survey says it's not really worth it, and the guy who set up a fracking company, Quadrilla, says it's not worth it either. But Moggy says, so what? Toys at the pram. There will be fracking in England. There you go. No more consultation or anything like that. It's done by decree now. Moggy says so, it will be done. Moving on Thursday, and the online security bill will be brought back to the Commons. The new culture vulture down that road, Michelle Dolan, tells the press the bits that impeded on freedom of speech will be axed. Well, the bits impeded on freedom of speech for adults will be axed. Out of that particular online security bill. And that has the press and the lot of us out here that are doing other things sigh a big sigh of relief. Because, you see, when that bill goes through, if any of you out there take offence to Davy's language, Davy could end up in the clink for 2 years. Isn't that interesting? So, under the online security bill, freedom of speech was being curtailed, and that worried journalists as well as people like myself who are citizens journalists, if you like, because you could have seen it's got to jail. Well, that's if the legislation made it as far as Scotland, all right? Right, moving on, Thursday. And Big Dog Bojo the Clown's back in the Commons. He's taking part in the debate over aid and support for Ukraine. Bojo tells us we just have to stay all in with Ukraine. And then he goes on and thanks Vladimir Putin for his leadership, for his exceptional leadership. He has to correct himself and say, oh no, Vladimir Zelensky. But to be honest, Bojo was right the first time. Putin owns the Tory party. Outright. Owns them. And by the way, if you have a look at the state of little England, it's looking more and more like Russia every day. Only Russia and England can you get nicked for holding up a blank piece of paper in protest. Right, also down that road, new Health Minister and vile creature Theresa Coffey announces that people in England will be guaranteed to see a GP within 2 weeks or after 2 weeks of waiting. Right, and that's for non-urgent appointments. GPs and surgery managers down that road all fall about laughing, saying, sorry, Kofi, there's not enough GPs to go around to make that happen. But there you go, another pronouncement. GPs, no contract, just a target. No contract amendments, just a target. Get bloody well on with GPs. You've got 2 weeks to see each patient. Plenty of time. Davy wants to see a doctor. And they talk about our NHS being pushed. Davy wants to see a doctor. He picks up a phone and says, Doctor, I'm not feeling well. Doctor, it's a 2-minute consultation. I'm on and see me. Next day. Sometimes the same day. But I mean, I don't know what's the story down that road. But my surgery, I have heard stories up here about people with long waits for to see a GP. Must just be poor surgery management. Anytime Sarah and I pick up a bloody phone, we've seen either that day or the next day. And that's after a phone consultation. Right. So, there you go. Guaranteed if you're in England, you'll see your GP in 2 weeks. That could be long enough to be deed. Right, also Thursday, it said that Kirtang will slash stamp duty on property sales to allow first-time buyers onto the market. Won't work, can't work. 2 reasons. They haven't built any fucking houses down that road, or no enough, and banks on the lending. So there's not enough houses to go around, and banks on the lending. Another stupid idea. Right, also Thursday, Bank of England hits as always 0.5% hike in interest rates, and banging another 25 quid a month onto mortgages of £100,000. This will drag more money out of consumers' pockets. as Kirtang tries to fit them in for anti-consumers' pockets. Well, rich consumers' pockets anyway. But you've got to remember, when money goes into rich consumers' pockets, they don't spend it. They don't have any needs. It goes straight to the Cayman Isles, or wherever else they're hiding their wherever else they're dodging taxes. Anyway, this isn't going to end well, folks. It really isn't. The B of E, Kirtang's trying to get the consumer a market up and running again, because let's face it, we're all scant. Putting 67 pence a month into Davy's pocket's not going to see him rush out and buy a new telly, a new suite, a new washing machine, a new fridge, a new carpet. So, absolute waste of time. And putting 150 quid into the pockets of those who are already on 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 grand a year, they're not going to spend it. It's just going to stack up the bank. So let's move on. That was a crap down that road yesterday. There was an awful lot come bailing out of that place yesterday, but I say that covers the most of the crap that came out down that road yesterday. They say about Bojo admitting that Putin's his hero. It was good fun. Right, let's move to Scotland. Thursday back here in Scotland, and the Pravda line up the NHS as a political football. They set it up. They set up the NHS Scotland crap story and the Scottish Government crap story for the cuckoos in the nest to try and knock out the park at FMQs. But, as usual, the cuckoos being crap fail. BBC's lining it up for them week on, week out, but when they get into that chamber and try and hit the ball with the bat, the First Minister takes a home run every time. Every time they throw a ball, bang, out the park, First Minister home run. They're absolute crap. Hey, okay. So, we'll get a wee bit more out when we get to First Ministers, alright? Thursday, and the Scottish Social Attitude Study's out, and it backs up the British Social Attitude Study that says majority of Scots now support independence, with only the Tories in Scotland behind the Union. 5% of the Tories in Scotland, believe it or not, are also pro-independence. Support for for those who voted remain in the EU in Scotland is up. Support for Indy for those who voted leave the EU in Scotland is also up. 1-1. Anyway, what the Social Attitude Study does show you is a projection from 1999 up until now, and how support for independence has been steadily growing and steadily growing and steadily growing. And after 2016, bang, massive rise. So the direction of travel has always been towards Indy. So independence is definitely coming. All right. Now, also Thursday, in light of Moggy and the Tories dropping the moratorium on fracking in England, Energy Minister of Holyrood, Michael Matheson, tells us Scots there will be no fracking in Scotland. End of. Mark Drakeford said the same thing in Wales. Funny enough, in Wales, Mark Drakeford got the support of the Welsh Tories on that one. Tories in Wales don't want fracking either. But as we know, the idiots, the cuckoos in the nest in Holyrood, they want fracking. Okay. Moving on, Thursday, First Minister's questions on. First up with Ross. He goes NHS waiting times, and he tells of one patient in Ayrshire that waited 84 hours for treatment. First Minister says to him, that's not good enough. Give me the details, I'll look into that. But she also says that the trend at the moment isn't good enough. We only 63.6% of people being seen in the 4-hour waiting time. By the way, that varies. That's an average. That's an average right across all the health boards. Some of the health boards are doing wonderfully well. Orkney, Shetland, Western Isles, all reaching the 90-odd%. In fact, most of them are. What's dragging it down is actually Edinburgh and Glasgow. Tayside, up in the 80% odds. But, as I say, what's dragging it down is Glasgow. Be a Glasgow Health Board. The Lothians and a wee bit of Fives dragging it down. Apart from that, most of the health boards are meeting their commitments. So, anyway, we're being told by Dross that where NHS A&Es, accident emergency rooms, are no longer safe. At this point, the FM goes, aye, that's enough of that, boy. So take no lectures for you on NHS. Scotland's NHS is still performing and outperforming all other NHSs in the UK. So the FM tells Dross, take no lectures for you people who are running the NHS in England on NHS waiting times. So Davy being Davy went and had a wee look at what's going on in England. 10-hour waiting time outside the hospital in an ambulance. Seems to be quite normal doing that road at the moment. Then they've been making it into the A&E. They're waiting 10 hours outside the A&E in ambulances. And Dross has got cheek to stand up and criticise your NHS. Anyway, First Minister having done it. Dross gets his bahookie scalp off to the naughty step. Anyway, next up was Poverty Price Sarwar. And he goes on the same thing. And then he says to the First Minister, 1 in 7 people in Scotland are now on an NHS waiting list. And Davy went, what? Okay. We'll take that on board for a wee second. Anyway, he then tells the First Minister it's not the pandemic. It's so get back to the day job. First Minister tells him, I will take no lessons from you on running the NHS when NHS Wales is the worst one on the mainland. Sarwar, bahookie scalp, naughty step. But Davy being Davy, Davy Street has got 22 homes in it. It's a typical street. Oh, it would be. It's not really a typical street, actually. Most is around 50, to be honest with you. I think there's 3 families and 2 30-somethings in the single flats there. So Davy went and canvassed all 22 homes yesterday afternoon. Tapped on the doors. My neighbours are on me. So, started at number 1, worked my way down to number 22. Chapped every door. Didn't take me long. It took me about 30 minutes. It's just the gym at the top of the street. Anybody in your household? At number 1, this is. Anybody in your household in the NHS waiting list? No. Number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, all the way to 22. One person. One person, and he just went on a waiting list last week. Oh boy, across the road's developed cataract. And he's not expecting to wait that long. So, if 1 in 7 people in Scotland are on an NHS waiting list, how come there's only 1 out of 22 households in David Street? I don't think my street's any different to anybody else's. I wonder where he's getting these stats from. Wow. Absolutely mental. So if my street's typical of most streets, where's he finding this 1 in 7 thing? Or is it just that we're incredibly fit out here? Oh well, anyway, Dross gets his bahookie scalped and sent to, no Dross says, Poverty Price Sarwar gets his bahookie scalped and sent to naughty step, alright? Now, if the stuff's shut, Alec Cole-Hamilton did have a question at FMQs yesterday. David didn't bother his ass with it. I don't dare irrelevant. The Lib Dems in Scotland are irrelevant. Absolutely irrelevant. There's only 4 of them along that road, and I think they've got 1 MP, making a grand total of 5 of them in the whole of Scotland. So, I don't bother my arse with irrelevant. The 1 MP is a proven liar. Cole-Hamilton's a stuff shut. Wee Willie Rennie's a diddy. I don't know who the other 2 are. Oh, Scooby. We'll get to that, Shuggy. Right, anyway. So there you go, folks. I've got a typical street, same as your street. Go out and canvass your own street. See how many's on an NHS waiting list. Okay, right, also Thursday, school kids to be consulted on a future direction of education here in Scotland. Sounds like a good idea. Also Thursday, National Records of Scotland say COVID is driving down life expectancies And life expectancy for men is 76, and life expectancy for women is 80. All right. Also, Thursday, First Minister announces 50 million fund for sustainable accommodation for Ukrainian refugees. There are now 18,000 Ukrainian refugees in Scotland. A lot of them will be returning shortly because I think this conflict is almost over. I think Putin's on his last days in charge in Russia. But let's say 50 million for sustainable housing for 18,000 Ukrainian. Sorry, 50 million for sustainable housing for 18,000 Ukrainian refugees. I'm just thinking to myself, that's nothing. There are going to be hundreds of thousands of refugees heading here for England when we get our independence. We better start building that fucking border now. We don't have the housing to take in the millions that will be fleeing England when Scotland becomes independent. Okay. Also Thursday, First Minister says all options to support Alpha Solway will be explored and to help Alpha retain its staff. Now, Alpha scaled up operations to produce PPE during the pandemic, and they got contracts from NHS Scotland to do that. Now, the NHS doesn't quite need as much PPE at the moment, so things are starting to drop off. The public don't need as much either, so things are dropping away for Alpha Solway. The contract with the Scottish Government starting to come to an end and all, but there is sustainable contracts going on with the Scottish Government because there will be need for personal protection equipment in Scotland's NHS anyway. This is all part of this new supply chain that was set up during COVID. But you see, things will pick up again. Winter's just round the corner. It was bloody freezing this morning, as I say. Once the winter comes in, they're expecting another wave of COVID. So things will pick up a wee bit for Alpha Solway in the winter. Right. Now, before we move on to this morning and what the rags have to say, I'll pick up on something that Mad Monk 33 had to say there. As Kwasi Kwarteng was given his money budget on the floor of the Commons this morning, 1.61% came off the value of the pound. The pound plummeted to £1 to $1.11, and that's the lowest on record. The last low was achieved on Friday last week when it matched a 37-year-old record that takes us back to the 80s and Maggie days, where we've seen rampant inflation, hiked interest rates, basically a situation we're in at the moment, except for this one's on stilts. Anyway, that was at £1 to 1.13 to the dollar. That was Friday. So while Kwarteng is giving his speech and his money budget and the Commons, there's a run on the pound. Where's the fucking exit door? We need to get out. Okay. So that's what I've got for you this morning. Let's move and see what the papers have got to say, shall we? Let's get the papers up this morning. For some reason I seem to shut the box and it'll only take 2 minutes to get it back up. So let's have a look at this morning and what the papers have to say. Now, see Kwarteng still on his feet. Scotland's paper, UK heads into recession and biggest tax cuts. Millions face mortgage hikes as UK heads into recession, says the Eye. Scottish Daily Mail goes on, biggest tax cuts for 30 years. Aye, it's worth, to those of us on the lowest earning, it's worth 60 odd pence. Well, those of you on the lowest earning, I'll be a wee bit more than the minimum wage, but those in the minimum wage, it's worth 60 odd pence a month to you. Don't all rush out and spend it in the one show. The Looney Rag Express has go for growth, big tax cuts to herald new era. No, it's no. There's a couple of things wrong with that. It's no big tax cuts for the masses, it's big tax cuts for the rich. The masses get 60 odd pence. There's nobody running out to spend. And the internal market is 60 odd pence better half a month. And the other thing is, there is nowhere to grow to. We've just shut ourselves off through the world's biggest trading bloc. And the Yanks don't want to deal with us. So basically the market is the internal market. Contraction is on. This is just a shift of wealth to the poorest to the richest. Oh, and the other headline, the Looney Rag the Express, is apparently William choked up over Paddington Bear tributes, whatever the hell that is. The Times has tax cut bonanza bid to stop economic rot-off. Economic illiteracy. If you want the economy to grow, put money in ordinary people's pockets. The Tories are putting money in the rich's pockets. Doesn't work. And the Daily Telegraph. Chancellor warns banks to get grip on inflation. Spanner. You're driving inflation. And rail networks to come to a standstill with 3 strikes in the space of a week, so rail's disruption again. The Herald has pain for homeowners as bank hikes rates to 2.25%. The Scotsman has mini budget his last chance to save millions from winter crisis. It ain't gonna work. The Metro has 84 hours wait at A&E. That's nothing. At least he was in the A&E. In England, they're sitting for 10 hours at a time in the back of ambulances, outside the A&E, before they get in and start their wait in the A&E. The National has SNP blasts Rees-Mogg over new bill to end EU laws, and FM shoots down Ross's bid to play politics over A&E waiting times. The Daily Lancet has life expectancy bombshell. Scotland the grave. Scots die earlier than elsewhere in the UK, and it's getting worse, says report. But it's elsewhere in the UK that's fucking driving it. Poverty's up. It's up every time the Tories get in power. That's why these cycles doing that road need a therapist. They keep voting for self-harm. Idiots. I'm telling you this, the English education system is definitely failing. Mental. Hey, the Press and Journal goes in shock as 400 jobs go at jobs axed at paper mill. We just spoke about that. The Courier has poverty task force plan to help poorest families. The Evening Telegraph has it's a no to al fresco, new rules on outdoor drinking. Evening Express goes on, serial city stalker is danger to women. Now what's the Star got for us today? I like to leave a Star for last because I don't know what your wackiest bloody headlines are all. And the Star's got Vlad's lads flee military call-up. And that is a report that David was talking about yesterday. And that is that young Russians are fleeing Russia. And you couldn't get a train ticket or a bus ticket or a flight out of Russia for loving their money. But Russians are really rushing to get out. Young Russians, there's just no point. There's just no point. Airports are packed and there's queues at borders. Russians try to get out of Russia. So it looks like Putin's finished. Right, that's what I've got for you today, folks. I hope you found it interesting. I hope you found it informative. And Albert Hisley says NHS Ayrshire isn't too bad. He's never had an issue. Ali's saying they're still leaving marmalade sandwiches all over England, are they? Well, maybe the poor will pick them up. Shocking behaviour. Right, that's what I've got for you today, folks. I hope you found that interesting. I hope you found it informative. Sorry about the shouting there a wee bit. Get a bit mental at these newspapers. When you look at the fucking idiots down that road, and you look at the idiots that voted them in, you say to yourself, there is something no right down that road. It's probably the human effluence in the latter. You know. When Putin says 300,000 conscripts, they mean about 1 million. No, well, there is 38 million Russians, I believe. Anyway, as I say, right, okay, let's get to the roundup time. Okay, because I've got to pick Sarah up in 10 minutes. So, eyes on the prize, kids. There is a campaign going on. We've got the Pravda telling us we're shite at everything every day. It might be time to go back and take the Pravda home, actually, outside their building again. Anyway, as I say, keep your eyes on the prize, learn your how you gonies and get out there and win hearts and minds. And if you want to know what your how you gonies are, there's a video kicking about that I did. You know, how you're going to do borders, how you're going to do currency, how you're going to do central bank, and how you're going to do international trade, or that fish. Well, I've answered all these questions in a video for you. But the simple answer is, how does anybody else do it? We'll copy and paste best practice. That takes out all the stupid unionist questions, them all. We're a highly intelligent people, will copy and paste best practice. Simple as that. Alright, now remember folks, support the independent media, support Broadcasting Scotland, Independence Live, Indie Live Radio, Caledon Media, Trues Radio, the iScot magazine and the national newspaper, support independent blogs and bloggers. And if they have a crowdfunder on the go and you have a few shekels to throw in the pot, please do. They do some fantastic investigative journalism. Okay, and as you know, don't want your money. If you like what I do, I've only got one request, and that is you share it around. If you're on YouTube, hit like, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification button. You'll get notified when we go live. When I go live, or when me and Davey goes live in the Two Davies show. And if you're on Facebook, share. I see that Facebook's limiting my range again. So if you're on Facebook, just share it everywhere. Just to annoy Facebook, you know. So anyway, moving on. Guidance. There's two bits of guidance left here. Public space, mask up. Enclosed public space, mask up. Keep your hands and surfaces cleaned regularly. And what else was I going to say? Oh, if you're not feeling well, mask up. Show a wee bit of social conscience for your neighbours and that. And finally, if you're still taking NHS lateral protests, please submit your results. You guys live in our communities, and it is one of the markers that tells us how much it is in our communities. So thanks very much. It's the end of the week. We'll be on Sunday for an hour at 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock, the Two Davies Sunday chat show. Haven't arranged anybody to come on with us this week either, but we'll get the budget to chow out. So we'll have lots to speak about. Okay, the usual guys, look after yourselves. Have a lovely weekend. Forgot Indie Two Cafes, charity nights tomorrow night, General Motors Club, 7:30. Okay, tenner for a ticket. So, if you want to fight the door, contact Agnes at the Indie Two Cafe. If you want to buy a ticket online for tomorrow night, it's acare53@gmail.com, and that's PayPal. Okay, tenner. Price of tickets are tenner, including your prices. Entertainment for Pete Scally. You maybe get a rant for me. And you get 5 raffle tickets and some scran to go with it. Alright. And I look forward to seeing you there, whoever it is that shows up. Alright, so you guys have a lovely day. Have a lovely weekend. Looking forward to seeing some of you tomorrow night. And as I say, we'll be back on Sunday for the Two Davies Sunday chat show, where we'll go delve into the budget. Alright. So Mulligan, if you're listening, we're delving into the budget on Sunday, alright? Here's a lot of a nice day. Bye for now.